What if everything you believed about why Job suffered was only half the truth? What if God allowed it, not despite loving Job, but because he loved him more than anyone else on earth? The real reason will change how you see every painful thing happening in your life.
Job
right
was
now.
not an ordinary man. The Bible describes him in one sentence that most people read too fast. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright. He feared God and turned away from evil. Blameless, upright, feared God, turned from evil. 4 descriptions. And God himself confirmed every single one. This was not a sinful man being punished. This was God's most trusted servant, being handed to suffering on purpose.
Here is the part of Job's story most preachers skip over. Before Job lost anything, there was a meeting in heaven. God was on his throne. The angels presented themselves before him. And then Satan walked in. God asked him, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered, "From roaming the earth, walking back and forth across it." And then God said something that should stop you completely. God pointed at Job first. He brought Job up, not Satan. God started this conversation. "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him." Let that sink in. God was so confident in Job that he personally pointed him out to the
Satan's
enemy.
response was immediate. "Does Job fear God for nothing? You have blessed everything he has, his family, his land, his wealth. Of course he worships you. You have protected him from everything. But stretch out your hand, touch everything he has, and he will curse you to your face." Satan was making one accusation against every person who has ever loved God. They only love you because of what you give them. Take it away and watch what happens. Job didn't know it yet, but his entire life was about to become the answer to that accusation on behalf of all of humanity.
And then it happened, all at once. First messenger arrived, his oxen and donkeys stolen, his servants killed. Second messenger arrived before the first finished speaking. Fire fell from the sky, his sheep gone, more servants dead. Third messenger arrived, his camels taken, more servants slaughtered. And then the fourth messenger, the one that broke everything. Your sons and daughters were eating together. A great wind struck the house. It collapsed. They are all dead. Job tore his robe, shaved his head, fell to the ground, and worshipped.
And right here, most people ask the wrong question. They ask, why would God allow this? But the real question is, what was God doing through this? Because God never lost control, not for one single second. Notice what God told Satan. Everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself, do not lay a finger. God set the boundary. God held the limit. God never left the room. Job felt abandoned, but God was present in every single moment of his pain, watching, holding, allowing, with a purpose Job couldn't see yet.
Then came his friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, Zophar. They sat with him in silence for 7 days. That part was right. But then they spoke, and everything they said was wrong. You must have sinned, Job. God doesn't punish the innocent. Confess what you did. They had a theology that had no room for innocent suffering. Sound familiar? How many people have told you that your suffering must be your fault? That if you just had more faith, this wouldn't be happening? Job's friends represent every voice that has ever made your pain feel like your punishment. God was angry at those friends, not at Job.
Questioned God. He demanded answers. He cried out in raw, honest pain. But he never, not once, cursed God. And in the middle of his darkest moment, Job said something that became one of the most powerful declarations of faith ever spoken. I know that my Redeemer lives, and in the end he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. In the middle of losing everything, in the middle of unanswered prayers, in the middle of bad advice from friends, in the middle of physical agony, Job declared, "My Redeemer lives." That is not the statement of a man who has lost his faith. That is the statement of a man whose faith cannot be destroyed.
Then God spoke, not with answers, not with explanations, not with an apology. God spoke with questions. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Who shut up the sea behind doors? Have you entered the storehouses of snow? Can you bind the Pleiades or loose the belt of Orion? Question after question for 4 entire chapters. And do you know what happened to Job when God spoke? He didn't get angry. He didn't demand his answers. He said, I had heard of you by hearing, but now my eyes have seen you. The suffering didn't give Job answers. The suffering gave Job God. And Job decided that was enough.
And then God restored Job. Twice what he had before. 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 2,000 oxen, new children, long life. But here is what the Bible says that most people miss. The Lord restored Job's fortunes when he prayed for his friends. Not when he complained less, not when he figured out the lesson, not when he performed better, when he chose to pray for the very people who had wounded him with their words. Forgiveness unlocked the restoration. It always
So
does.
here is the real truth about why Job suffered. The truth nobody tells you. Job suffered because God trusted him completely. Job suffered because his faith was strong enough to carry the weight of the answer to Satan's oldest accusation. Nobody loves you for who you are. They only love you for what you give. Job proved that wrong, with his life, with his pain, with his worship in the ashes. And maybe, just maybe, your suffering right now is not punishment either. Maybe God is that confident in you. Maybe your faith is that strong. Maybe your story is answering something in the heavenly realm that you cannot see yet. Job didn't know why, but he held on.
If Job's story
So can you.
spoke to you today, don't keep it to yourself. Share this with someone who is asking God why right now. They need to know that suffering is not the absence of God. It is sometimes the closest He ever gets. Comment below one word that describes what you are trusting God with right now. Just one word. Drop it below, and we will believe with you.